All right. Hello, everyone. Official welcome to our Find Your Community webinar here today, where we're going to focus on how you can start building your community if you choose to join us here at UBC Engineering. My name is Franco Fung. I work as the Student Recruitment Officer here at the UBC Vancouver campus. So we have a lot of great information to share with you today, but let's first talk about the land our campuses stand on. As you know, UBC has two campuses. Our Vancouver campus sits on the traditional territories. This is a traditional territories of Indigenous peoples, and Indigenous peoples have been, of course, here over thousands of years. And here on our Vancouver campus, the place where we work, learn, and connect and innovate is on the unceded, traditional, and ancestral territories of the Musqueam peoples. And now I'd like to send it over to Marie to introduce herself and introduce the Okanagan campus.
Hi, everyone. So glad you could all join us here today. Like Franco said, my name is Marie Reed, and I'm an engineering advisor from the UBC Okanagan campus. My pronouns are she, her. I would like to acknowledge that the UBC Okanagan is situated in the territory of the Selix Okanagan Nation and their peoples. I would also like to acknowledge that you are joining us today from many places near and far, and acknowledge that the traditional owners and caretakers of those lands. So I'm going to pass it back to Franco now, and I'll see you all later.
Awesome. Thanks, Marie. So just a couple tips and tricks before we get going with our session today. So if you are experiencing any audio issues, you can double check that in your audio settings. Just make sure you're selecting the correct speaker for your audio to come through. If you're still experiencing any issues with audio, please let us know through the Q&A. We can attempt to help you troubleshoot that. Of course, this session is for you. So please ask your questions through the Q&A box. Where you can find that is going to be at the bottom of the screen. So please submit your questions there as opposed to submitting it through the chat. The Q&A is kind of where we'll be able to keep track of everyone's questions and be able to get to your questions that way as well. So in order to try and get to everyone's questions, I'm hoping that everyone can submit their questions once, just so it doesn't take up the space on the queue. If you do need closed captioning, that is available for you too. That is something you can also enable at the bottom of the screen. And if you aren't able to stick with us for the entire session, that's okay too. We will be making the recording of this session available. We'll send it to you through in our follow-up email, and it will be posted to our YouTube channel at UBC Engineering. So just a quick round of introductions on who you will meet today. You've already met myself and Marie. And in just a few moments, you're also going to meet some of our students. So we have Chantel from Women in Engineering from our Okanagan campus. We have Matthew from our Concrete Toboggan team, also at the Okanagan campus. We have Ryan from the UBC Thunderbots team at the Vancouver campus. And we have Cameron, who's the president of our Engineering Undergraduate Society at our Vancouver campus as well. So thank you all for joining us here, and we look forward to your questions in just a little bit. So this is our agenda. I'm going to go over some frequently asked questions. If you've joined us in previous sessions, these are the same questions I'll go over again. But if you haven't joined us before, I'll let you know kind of where we are in the application cycle. And then we're going to move on to introducing our students and their organizations. And then we're going to wrap up with a live Q&A with you. So if you've already applied, you might be wondering what's next. So for some of you, you might be wondering when you will hear back. So in general, generally for UBC, the majority of decisions are continuously being sent out on a rolling basis, and they will continue to do so from around December to April. Now, you can stay up to date on your application by checking your application service center, your ASC, regularly. If you haven't logged in, make sure you're logging in, checking that regularly to stay up to date on your application. Now, if you are asked by UBC to submit some supporting documents, we will ask for those through the ASC. So another reason for you to check your ASC regularly. UBC will share which documents that the university needs and our mission teams needs, and they will also detail how you should submit them. So again, make sure you check your ASC regularly for any updates. And just other general tips, making sure you're checking your email regularly for any updates. And if you do receive any communications from UBC, make sure you are reading through those carefully and thoroughly, because there's going to be a lot of important information there. And after reading those communications and you have additional questions, please reach out to us or the admissions team, and then we'll make sure you get your questions answered. So that's it for me. I'm gonna turn it over to Marie to introduce our design teams.
Awesome. Thank you, Franco. So we have some amazing students here with us today who are going to share with you all about their student experience, how they joined their design team or club or organization, and what those clubs, organization, and design teams can do to help build community, our engineering community at either the Okanagan and the Vancouver campus. So I can see that some of our students are already here with their videos. Perfect. And they're all on the stage, so that's awesome. So as Franco mentioned earlier, each of the students here are members of one of our design teams, clubs, or organizations. So we're going to start off with them sharing a bit about their specific team, club, or organization, and then we're going to move into the panel. So we're going to start off with our Women in Engineering Club. So that would be Chantel, who's going to be sharing a little bit about that.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to talk to you today about the Women in Engineering Club here at UBC Okanagan. So first, who am I? So my name is Chantel. I'm in third year civil engineering, and I am the current president of the Women in Engineering Club. But who are we? So Women in Engineering, or the acronym we was made to support women in identifying engineering students throughout their academic journey. During the school year, we try to provide a space for networking, social events, and volunteer opportunities to facilitate a sense of community. So a few of our previous events that we've held this year and previous years, the first one and kind of the most fun that I think we've had was the KF Aerospace Tour. That was a really cool opportunity where KF Aerospace invited a group of women identifying students to come tour their facility. It was super cool to get that opportunity, not something that you really get to do day to day. I've never been inside of a decommissioned plane before, so that was cool. We've done Lego building nights, faculty time, which was a kind of networking event where faculty members came for a little bit of a tea party. We've done a STEM gala that was a collaboration with the Girls in Tech Club. We did a pottery night that was again more of a social event. We did Meet a Woman in STEM where women in the field of engineering came and spoke to us. We've done Galentine's. We do many snack and study events. And we had our merch design contest where we designed this super cool quarter zip, which it's a fun activity to get everybody involved in a big decision like merch. Yeah, that's just a little bit about our club.
Sorry, it just took me a second to unmute there. Thank you so much, Chantel, for giving that nice overview of the Women Engineering Club. We're excited to hear more from you during our panel question shortly. So now I'm going to pass it over to Matthew to talk about the Concrete Toboggan Club at the UBC Okanagan campus.
So yeah, I'm here to talk about the UBCO Concrete Toboggan Club, or GNCTR team. A little bit about myself. I'm currently on a co-op work term, but I'm in my third year of manufacturing engineering with computer science minor. And I've been on the Concrete Toboggan team for 4 years. So I joined pretty much as soon as I got onto campus in my first year of school. And then that's me just at last year's competition there. So a lot of the questions, probably the most common question I get asked is, what is a concrete toboggan? Because it is very strange. But basically, it's a design team where we have to design, manufacture, and then race our toboggans down a hill. But the catch is that all the sliding surfaces have to be made of concrete. So most often that's done with 4 skis in each corner. And then it also has a full roll cage steering system and braking system. And the civil side of things, there's also the ski profiles, the concrete mix, and the reinforcement within that as well. So our main competition runs kind of in January, February, but leading up to that, we do have a lot of team building events and fundraisers. So a lot of these are bowling nights, movie nights, potlucks, stuff like that. And then, of course, we have weekly design meetings and concrete pours, in which we'll kind of go through a lot of our design process. And that's like a really good spot to learn about kind of not just what we do, but the engineering thought put into our designs and everything. That all leads up to our main competition, which, as I mentioned, kind of runs depending on the year and the host, late January, early February. and it's 4 days long. So the first day you kind of fly in and there's the opening ceremonies event. Then there's a competitor interaction day where you kind of go around, see other competitors and see whatever city is hosting. That leads into the technical exhibition day where you can go and see all the other toboggans that the other schools have brought, as well as several presentations that are done for judging. And that finally leads into race day and closing ceremonies on the final day, which these 3 photos here are all from racing most recently in Montreal, where we were in January this year. And then within our team, there are kind of 4 main sub-teams. There's the mechanical design sub-team. So their focus is on the roll cage, steering, and brakes. And that's a great way to gain hands-on design experience, but also hands-on manufacturing experience in the school's machine shop. Our concrete team does weekly, sometimes multiple pours a week, concrete pours. And then they also design the mix, the reinforcement, and the ski profile and formwork. And again, great hands-on way to develop like those sorts of skills. Last, we also have our technical interaction and spirit team. So they design our technical display, and they're also kind of in charge of planning the team events and fundraisers and stuff like that. And lastly, the project management team, which does our finances and the 3 reports they have to submit as part of the competition.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Matthew. It's nice to hear a little bit more about the team. I also want to plug a little bit that the concrete toboggan team came in first place last year in their competition across all the teams who competed in Canada. So just wanted to give you a little thumbs up for that. You guys did great. Now I'm going to pass it over to Ryan to talk about UBC Thunderbots from the UBC Vancouver campus.
Thank you, Mary. Yeah, so we are going to talk about UBC Thunderbots here. I am the captain of the team, so yeah. So I'll give a bit more introduction about engineering design teams if you're not really used to it. So they're kind of student-run clubs that build prototypes or code competitions. So if you saw Concrete Toboggan's description, that's one of the engineering design teams. At UBC Vancouver, we have 36 design teams, which is actually one of the highest numbers in North America as far as I'm aware. So there's a lot to choose from. Like similar to how we have a lot of disciplines, there's a lot of different fields of design teams. So for example, there's like aerospace, robotics, motorsports is like a very popular one, chemical, biomedical, sustainability. I also have some examples in there for some like well-known design teams. It's a really good way to just get involved with the community and just gain a lot of hands-on skills which you wouldn't get otherwise in the classroom. Yeah, so there is a bit more information about what my design team does. So we are called UBC Thunderbots. And if you can guess from the name, so we kind of work on robots. So our robots are these small things you see on the pictures there. They're basically a bunch of like small automated robots, completely hands-off. They compete in the small size league of the International RoboCup Federation. So that's like the RoboCup is our main competition that happens every year. And the fun part is like it's international. So there's a lot of different locations that that competition takes place in. Like I've been to Bangkok, I've been to Netherlands, and we hopefully will go to Brazil this year. So if you like a bit of like adventuring alongside your competitions and learning, it's pretty fun. It's kind of like a hackathon. So yeah, we have received first place in 2019 and 2021, and more recently we got second place in 2024 in Netherlands. And yeah, we've been in UBC since 2006, so it's been a long time. You'll see our older robots generation over there. We are Canada's only participant as of now in the RoboCup Small Size League, so that's kind of fun. And here is a kind of loud video of how our gameplay works. So this is what the scene looks like. It's kind of like a regular football match. If you watch soccer or any of those things, it's, yeah, you can play the video.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's very loud, but basically that's just how chaotic it is. You feel like you're like a soccer mom and you just see your kids score a goal and everyone gets super excited. But yeah, so a bit more about myself. So I started in UBC in 2020, which was COVID year. I'm an international student, so that was also kind of like a huge culture shift for me. But thankfully, just being in Thunderbots, I joined the team in my first year as well. I'm on co-op right now. So it's been incredible in just like being in touch with the engineering community in UBC. And yeah, is as you can see, like it's been incredible for just finding community in terms of like friendships, networking, and even just like knowing about other disciplines in engineering. And it really helps with just boosting your portfolio and things like that. But yeah, I'll talk more about this later, but the key thing is like you get back what you give. So if you put in a lot of effort and just be consistent with your like contributions, you'll get back a lot in return. Yeah, so you might be wondering what was that all like chaos about? So this is a nicer picture of a robot. So we have it's like a 6v6 league. So we have 6 robots that compete against other 6 robots. And this is kind of like a CAD, like a digital model of what our robots look like. We have omni wheels, we have like this whole thing in the front that kind of holds the ball, can go like backwards, forwards, rotating in every direction, kick the ball, things like that. And we also have a very dedicated and very talented software team which like does like the brain of the robot for us. So yeah, that's kind of one of the fun parts. So we have like a lot of people from a lot of different disciplines. Some examples are here, like we have people from mechanical, manufacturing materials, and then like that's just mechanical. And then for electrical, we actually make our own PCBs, which is not as common as you think. So we have a lot of people from PCE, then Inchviz, and then for software, we actually have a lot of people from science as well. So it's a really great way to just learn about people outside your discipline. So yeah. Yeah, if you want to know more about our design team, we have some information up here. So we love having like answering questions or like even going to like high school demos if you're into that. But thank you so much. From me.
Thank you, Ran. It's so nice to hear about UBC Thunderbots. I actually didn't know very much about your design team, so that was very, very interesting. I'm excited to learn more as we get into the panel a little bit later. So lastly, we have Cameron joining us today from the Engineering Undergraduate Society. So I'll invite Cameron to tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Marie. Yeah, as Marie said, I'm the president of the Engineering Undergraduate Society here at UBC Vancouver. A little bit about myself before I get into the presentation. I am a 6th-year manufacturing engineering student, so I started in 2019. I've done 16 months of co-op at 3 different jobs. I've been involved with the Manufacturing Engineering Undergraduate Council, as well as the Engineering Undergrad Society for 5 years. So I've got a lot of experience, and I'm hoping that I can share some of that with you guys today. But let's jump into the presentation. What is the EUS? The EUS, or the Engineering Undergrad Society, exists to serve the best interests of all engineering students at UBC. We have a ton of volunteer opportunities, and we host all kinds of events to make sure that everybody feels like they can participate and there's something for them here. So in terms of volunteer opportunities, there are quite a few, but I've listed some of the big ones. So the first one, PP Council. There's a long story, but we call our first years the PPs. The PP Council is essentially like your high school student council. You're planning events. You're basically doing everything to support the first year cohort while you're here in engineering. As well as PP Council, we've also got, I believe the next slide is Red Sales. Yep. So Red Sales is our engineering merchandise store. A red is kind of a key part of being an engineer at UBC Van. You see them everywhere you go. Engineers wear them with pride. And you customize them, you cover them with patches, all that sort of stuff. Next up is the eatery. So in the Engineering Student Center, the eatery serves some of the cheapest food and coffee on campus. We have $1 coffee, $5 sandwiches, and it's just generally a really good vibe. If you're volunteering at the eatery, you get a $5 food credit as well, so you can put that towards something from the eatery if you're hungry. And then there's a ton more as well. So we have a garden. We host parties in our building sometimes and events, and we need to do tech setup for those. We need photographers and videographers, graphics reps, crafts reps, career fair reps, keepers of the cairn, spirit reps, Godiva band reps, and sports reps, and many more. So there's really an opportunity for everybody to get involved with the EUS through volunteering. And some community events that we run. So when you first come to UBC for engineering, you will get thrown straight into Week E-Naught. This is your first year orientation week. It is, contrary to the name, 2 weeks long. I met some of my lifelong friends at Week E-Naught. It's a great time. It's 2 weeks filled with events to welcome you to our community, essentially. So yeah, that's Week E-Naught. Moving on. Yeah, e-retreat happens at the end of Week E-Naught. We take 100 first-year engineering students to Camp Latona on Gambier Island, which is just off of Vancouver here. It's really an unforgettable experience. You're forced to bond with these people that you're stuck on an island with for a weekend. It's a lot of fun. We go hiking, we have water sports, just generally a great time there. We also run sports tournaments throughout the year, so various sports tournaments. This is a picture of an ultimate frisbee tournament, but we've done dodgeball, volleyball. We're looking into doing a basketball tournament in a few weeks here. So there's tons of ways that you can get involved if you're into kind of the sporty side of things. And we also do a condo cram every year. So we actually just this past weekend went up to Big White, just outside of Kelowna there. We took 50 engineers up, and that was a really good time there. So, and then lastly, E-Week. That photo is not E-Week. I apologize. I didn't change that in time. But E-Week is a massive competition between all the departments, including the first years, to see who is the best department, essentially. They're vying to be known as the winners. So yeah, that's a really good time. It's a week filled with different activities from kind of Smash Bros to tug of war. So there's something for everybody in E-Week as well. Yeah, just to finish this off, this is kind of a slogan that you hear at UBC Vancouver a lot. I know it seems kind of cliche, but engineers rule the world, and you'll really come to understand that engineers are the best students on this campus here. They have the most spirit, the most energy, and just generally you can tell that they want to be here. So I'll finish with that.
Thanks, Cameron. It's so nice to see all the different events you have to welcome first years, to create community for all different interests as well. So it doesn't have to be something specifically related to engineering. It's nice to see those sports, the crafts, things like that, to be able to take a break from your studies and bond. So I just have a few questions now for all of our panelists here today. But before we do that, I have a few items that I just need to chat about before we head into that Q&A portion. So if you just go to the next slide there, Franco. So we would like to remind everyone here to keep an eye out for emails from UBC Engineering. That's where we're going to be sharing important information and letting you know about upcoming events. In our emails, we often feature UBC Engineering ambassadors, and you can start a chat with them at any point. We have students from both campuses on there who have been on design teams and co-op, on exchange, and other sort of experiences. So please feel free to reach out to answer any questions that you have about the student experience. I also wanted to mention that there are a lot of upcoming events that UBC Engineering is planning. All of these events can be found on the UBC Engineering events webpage. Specifically, we have 2 events coming up in the next few weeks. One is the pre-biomedical engineering information session that's happening on March 4th, and our Campus to Career Alumni Insight session on March 12th. But you can check out all of the upcoming events on the UBC Engineering events webpage that we'll put into the chat. We'll put that link into the chat if you don't have that link already. So now that I've got through that information, it's really just open for questions now. So we're going to start with a few prepared questions here, and then I can see questions are coming in the Q&A as well. Please, if you have any questions, continue to add that into the Q&A because we're going to shift to that shortly. So the first question I have is, how do students find out about your organization, team, or club? And is there a process for applying to be a part of your team, club, or organization? I'm going to start with Ryan, please.
Thank you, Murray. So for our team, as we mentioned, like we have a social media and a website. So it's just ubcthunderbolts.ca. That lists like all of our other social media in there as well. So that's, and our Instagram is like the most commonly used one. We update it frequently. That's also UBC Thunderbolts. Our recruitment process. So yeah, we hire, like recruit new students every year. So it's like an annual process. So we do it once a year. That's during September. So you kind of find us in a booth during Imagine Day, if you know what that is. So we have like all those little booths with the design teams and clubs. So that's also a really fun time. Yeah. So we have a recruitment, and we also like to really like emphasize that even if you feel like you don't have the experience for a design team, like please apply. Like it's always good to like take initiative and like shoot a shot. Like yeah, a lot of first years get scared that they don't know enough for these things, but like just I did not know much myself. So and I'm here. So it does work out. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you. I'm going to pass over to Matthew next. And Matthew, I'm going to tag on a second question for you specifically for concrete that came in the Q&A right when you were speaking, and it really relates to this. And the question to tag on about how to join the club is, how do you decide who drives the concrete toboggan, or who gets to be on that concrete toboggan? If you could incorporate that, if you have an answer for that, that would be great.
Yes. So our recruitment process generally in September, when kind of students are just coming in, starting the year, it's just general, anyone can join. At that point, we kind of have all our leads established because our design cycle is a bit different than a lot of the other 3 engineering teams on campus, and that our competition is in January. So actually right now we are actually just in the process of going through applications and determining next year's design team. So it is a bit interesting when you do join, you're kind of joining as we're already hitting the ground running, which is good. But to answer the specific part of who gets to drive the toboggan, typically on race day, we'll get 3 to 4 runs, depending on timing and if everything goes to schedule. Generally, the first run, whoever designed the steering system gets to drive. And then the other 4, so 5 people go in the toboggan. The other 4 riders are generally a combination of kind of whoever the executive team determined put the most kind of effort and work into the team to make it to competition that year, as well as kind of members of the design team. So usually it's the brake lead deploying the brakes, and we put the roll cage design lead in there just because they're the ones who design those things. So if they fail at the first run, it should be them. But then after that, we kind of just try to cycle as many people through it as possible, but generally determined by kind of who we felt contributed the most.
That's great to hear, though, that you do switch it up between the different runs, because I know you do have quite a few people who go to competition. So it's nice that many of them will get a chance to ride on that toboggan. Plus, I'm sure you do some practice runs before going. So lots of good times trying to test that out. Cameron, Chantal, were there anything you wanted to add for process for applying to join the Women Engineering Club or the Engineering Undergraduate Society?
Yeah, I mean, we do pretty typical hiring process. For all of our upper level kind of managers and director roles, we do interviews to make sure that we're hiring the best candidate for those. But for all of our rep roles, generally, if you come to the Engineering Student Center, come and talk to one of the executives or one of the people that's working there. They'll be more than happy to onboard you on the spot and get you working and volunteering straight away there. So it's pretty relaxed and pretty fun overall.
I'll say for women in engineering, I like to think of it more as like if you're a woman identifying student, you're a part of the club. There isn't really a process to join as like a general member. There is if you want to be a part of the executive side and like plan events. That's like more of a regular, like Cameron said, like interview process. But yeah, basically anybody's welcome to all of our events.
That's great. Thank you so much. I'm keeping track of this Q&A here, and I see a question that's very applicable. You all talked about how you can join your team, but do any of you have experience or know someone who has joined multiple clubs or teams? And if so, would you like to share if it's yourself or maybe their experience, how they've decided which teams to join, how to balance that?
So I might speak a bit on this one. So kind of think of it as like if you're having multiple jobs, like it's not impossible. Like you can, like nobody's like it's a student design team. Nobody's going to like ban you from joining multiple teams. You can, if you get into multiple, like that's great. But realistically thinking, at least in my personal opinion, you won't really get the most out of teams if you do multiple because it's really a lot of workload. Like if you're actually contributing to a team like regularly, it's going to take up a lot of time, and being in multiple teams means like you won't really get to have like finished projects or like actual goals achieved in multiple. So I wouldn't recommend it personally, but it's nobody's going to stop you from doing that. If you want to, you're more than happy. There's a lot of people I know that who also like realize like they joined the design team in their first year and then they realize they like something else because that's when you're exploring. Like they got into like a different discipline than they originally wanted to. And it's like that's really what I would say multiple design teams are good for. Like just like exploring your interests. But in the long term, it's ideal if you just stick to one.
Yeah, I've never actually been on a design team. It's one of my biggest regrets about my time at UBC. But I've had many friends who have been on design teams and they've equated being on a design team to about an extra 1 or 2 courses per term. And with the first year course load already being quite high, I would caution joining more than one in your first year. If you think that you can take it on when you get to an upper year level, then by all means go for it. But definitely in your first year, as you're trying to get your placement, and pick which program you want to go into, really focus in on those academics as much as you can. But also make sure that you have fun and like go do things, go for a walk, enjoy the campus. Both campuses are really beautiful. So
Cameron, thanks so much for sharing. I just want to take a second to just build off of that. Sorry, Matthew, Chantel, we'll definitely give you a chance to jump in to share as well. There was a question here about like, how can we apply to be a volunteer? Like how many hours would be associated, especially like in your first year. So I really liked what you were saying about focusing on your academics. If a first year wants to become involved, do they have to put in a certain amount of hours? Can they kind of come and learn about the Engineering Society or any of the clubs and design teams? Are there any requirements around that?
yeah, I mean, for us, we typically try and push our first years to our rep positions. We do have managers and directors, like I said, but reps we're kind of expecting 1 to 2 hours a week per role that you take on. Managers are 5 and directors are 10 a week. So kind of that's why we try and push everybody towards rep positions in their first year so that you can kind of slowly ease yourself in. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have first year volunteers who are giving us 15, 20 hours a week somehow, and I have no clue how they're doing it. And I wouldn't recommend it, but it is possible. And kind of when you're just holding those rep roles, you can kind of make as much time or as little time as you want for it.
Thanks, Cameron. Chantel, Matthew, did you have anything you wanted to add about being on multiple clubs, teams, and or like the volunteer type requirements? All covered? Okay, cool. I'm going to move on to another question here. This one is for Matthew. So you talked quite a bit about the competition for the concrete toboggan team. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about how these competitions build engineering community amongst the team at the UBC Okanagan campus, but also with the teams across Canada.
Yeah, so the one big day, the competitor interaction day, they put you in a group and you might not even have a single person from your school, and they just force you to go and talk to other schools and other students across the country. And that's really great. I've met some great friends that I'm still in touch with that are going to various schools out east that I would have never met otherwise. And then again, on the technical interaction day, you're going around meeting other schools. And on that day, there's also generally 4 to 6 just kind of sponsor booths set up that are usually have some engineers there, and you can chat with them. And then they also bring in, depends on the year, but anywhere from 5 to 8 engineers currently working in the field that are judges. And usually after they're done their presentation and everything, they'll come walk around. And if you want to go talk to them and meet them and talk to them about their experience being an engineer, it's just a great time to do it all because they're around and all happy to share that experience with people there.
Perfect. Thanks so much for sharing. I know I hear from a lot of students that that competition is so much fun. They make lifelong friends across Canada. And so I'm glad to hear that there's lots of opportunity for networking and community building. Ryan, I just wanted to share that or send that question back to you as well, because you look like you have a very cool competition you go to. I was wondering how that builds community with your team and the teams who participate being the only Canadian team who is in that competition.
Yeah, thank you. So this is actually like a really good opportunity because I don't know about other competitions, but this one is completely open source. So anything that goes into the competition, like any design team whatsoever, we all kind of submit like this paper called like a team description paper. It's kind of like our own internal journal sort of. So all the information that everything we build is open source and any other team can also access that. So we have like a Discord server for like with all the other teams and everything. And we always like, if you have any questions, like nothing's a secret. Nobody's like gatekeeping information. If you ever have any questions about like, oh, can I 3D print this like very random material, or how, like, what's the best motor you guys have found out or anything like that, we always like reach out to other design teams and just like share a lot of information. And the fun part of this being like an international competition is like you get to learn so much about other people's cultures. Like we always receive a lot of gifts from other communities like and other countries. We also bring our own, like we bring like maple cookies and like other Canadian treats, and we get very excited about that as well. So on the international scope, like it's incredible to just like learn about other cultures. And even beside that, it's just going to like learning about so many other disciplines, and like even outside of engineering in a design team is like pretty special. And it's just so much opportunities to like learn and grow and make friends even. Yeah.
I really appreciate you sharing all that information and your experience with that competition with the team. And it just really leads into a question that actually just came into the Q&A, which is about how the experiences you have in your club or your design team or your organization can give students or can help students maybe hone or build their skills in terms of applying for jobs after graduation or even during co-op, right? A couple of you said you were on co-op as well. So maybe I'm just going to let you guys unmute and you can to answer from your own experience of maybe the skills that you've learned that you think will apply over for when you graduate.
For it, I guess one of the biggest skills I felt like is working on a team, because in your classes you'll get your kind of team projects, but they're only a little 4-month class project. But this is kind of a year-long thing, and it's no one's there because they have to be. Everyone's there because they want to be doing this project, and just working with a team and collaborating with people to try to make the best thing. Very similar to what I've experienced in my co-op terms. It's just being open to other ideas and everything and working towards a common goal. And then also a lot of just the technical skills that go beyond classes of, because they can lecture you about how to design something all they want, but it's totally different until you're actually trying to design it yourself and realizing why things don't work. So yeah, I'll pass it off. Anyone wants to add on to that?
Yeah, I can speak specifically to the EUS. Kind of the most that I've gotten out of the EUS is again teamwork. But we also really like as you build yourself up through our volunteer system, you kind of get more leadership ability. And generally you're building those maybe less technical skills, but the still very critical soft skills that employers are looking for. I know a big one as an executive is like kind of project management, and how that's applicable to essentially every job you're gonna have as an engineer. So yeah, more on the soft skills side for us, but definitely still useful.
Yeah, I think it's the same here. So for me, like I have had both like an administrative position as like a captain, and I've been like a technical team member as well. So both of those have been like incredibly useful for just any kind of jobs. And another thing I'd like to add is that usually like you have a like pretty good alumni networking design team, and you'll probably find like if you're looking for a referral for a job or something, you'll probably find someone from your design team. And I've had situations where like I needed like a referral, like a letter of recommendation or something, and I reached out to my previous captain, and we had a really good connection, and that helped me a lot. So even besides the skills you learn, like all sorts of skills, you also get a lot of connections with people who work in the fact like an industry you might be interested in. So that's a very valuable thing that you might not find as much outside the design team space or the club space, really.
Chantel, the next question I have is for you. So I just wanted to give you a chance to do you have anything you wanted to add, or I can just pass it right over to the next question for you. Perfect. So you shared a lot about the amazing community events that the Women Engineering Club does throughout each year. I was wondering if you could just dive a little bit deeper into how the Women Engineering Club supports women identifying students and creates a community.
For sure, yeah. So a lot of people like the transition from high school to university is already a daunting task. And when you go from high school where you were maybe more at a 50-50 male to female ratio, and then as a woman identifying student, you jump in and it's not quite 50-50, though we're working to get closer to that. It's still quite heavily a male dominated path right now. But it's really important to acknowledge there's feelings of isolation that a lot of like women identifying students can have, and being able to have a space where you can come out and meet people who are going through the same things. It can be really helpful to like make friends and just overall like get you those connections that you're going to need, because it's really hard to go through university alone. And if you feel more comfortable making friends in small spaces like that, it's really helpful to see familiar faces and people who totally understand where you're coming from. That's why I especially like to focus on like first year events, especially as now I'm in my upper years. It's I look back and I see like where that's where I was at one point, and it's nice to see that there's more and more of these kinds of events popping up to allow for that.
And it's really nice to see as an alum from UBC Okanagan Engineering, the mentorship that's happening between the upper year students and the first year students coming in, and just building that strong network within from the beginning. I know many students who graduate still have very close friends and connect back to the Women Engineering Club to support after graduation. So it is really a strong community that is built together from what I've seen from that club. So great work there. There is a question specifically for the Women Engineering Club in our Q&A. They are asking what kind of engineering is incorporated in women in engineering activities. They're wondering if like all types of engineering or engineers in all of the programs can be a part of the Women in Engineering Club. And they were also mentioning like a woman only car meet would be amazing. So having those specific women identifying events. So I don't know if you have anything else you wanted to add in relation to that question comment.
Yeah, we have exec members from all the different types of engineering we have here at UBC Okanagan. We definitely focus our events more on just like in general events, not really focus too much on specific faculties, but we do have like an upcoming women in motorsports conference that's happening. We've done like the aerospace tours, so sometimes it can be incorporated, but it's usually just general. Um, yeah, so anyone's welcome. Most events, even if they are focused on one, it's a cool way to come out and see what the other faculties are all about.
That's amazing. Thank you. I was pretty sure that the motorsports event was happening, so I was hoping that that was happening again this year. So that's great. We do have a few questions here that are more student experience related, not directly related to the design team. So I'm going to switch our focus a little bit to some of these student experience questions. So the first one here is, it would be great if you guys have anything you'd like to share about maybe extracurriculars, outdoor activities, things you like to do outside of your studies and maybe the design team. They were also asking about student council, but maybe at first we can just focus on extracurriculars, outdoor activities, things like that. So feel free to unmute if you have something you'd like to share.
Yeah, I can share a little bit on the Vancouver side. So there's UBC Recreation runs intramural leagues for pretty much every sport you can think of. We've also kind of got the big three: Day of the Longboat, Great Trek, and Storm the Wall every year. So kind of big three team events that you probably really haven't seen too much of elsewhere. There's also, I mean, you live in Vancouver when you're here, so there's the mountains around. There's tons of great hiking, great parks around Vancouver. Stanley Park, the seawall, kind of there's tons of places that you can go off campus as well as on campus to kind of go outside, do things that you enjoy. There's the big fields if you just want to go and kick a soccer ball around or play cricket or something like that. Yeah, generally just Vancouver is very welcoming to outdoor activities, assuming we're not in our 1 week period where we've been dumped on by snow and the city falls to pieces.
Thank you, Cameron. Yes, Vancouver is such a beautiful area with so many different things to do. But yes, when there's snow, it's more just enjoying some walking around time. Matthew, Chantel, anything you want to add for the Okanagan campus or Kelowna region?
I can add a bit. Yeah, Kelowna, very similar to Vancouver, outdoors, skiing, hiking, biking, everything. The only thing I will add is there's lots of other clubs besides just engineering design teams to be a part of. So there's the Varsity Outdoors Club that I think Vancouver campus has, and we have the Okanagan version of that as well. And there's mountain riders and all sorts of different clubs that pretty much if there's an activity that you can think of, there's probably a club for it. So just don't be afraid to go out and look for it, or even after a few years in, start your own club if there's something you're passionate about that's missing. But that's just the limit. It's not just engineering design teams that are what the community is built on. There's lots of other clubs and ways to get out.
Yeah, if I can actually jump back in and add on to that, I just want to reiterate Matthew's point about if you can think of it, there's probably a club for it. At least at UBC Vancouver, there are over 400 clubs that you can join. And on Imagine Day, which is your first day of classes, which I think will be September 3rd or 4th or something like that, they line up down Main Mall, and it's kind of every student on campus is there looking to join new clubs and find where their space can be on campus. So
Well, that's so great. And it's such a true point that if you can imagine, if you don't have it, you can apply to create the club. There's an ice cream club at the UBC Okanagan campus. So really anything is possible. If it's a passion of yours, you can make it happen. So thank you so much for sharing what you guys like to do outside of school, but also lots of opportunities for the many different interests our students have. The next most upvoted question here is about academic workload. So the student is wondering, is it high pressure and stressful or more balanced? How do students typically manage their time between academics and extracurriculars like clubs, or any other extracurriculars you might be doing? Maybe I'll start off with Chantel.
Sure. I have a little bit of a unique experience. I started originally in the 4-year path. And then after my first and second year, I realized 6 courses a semester was a really heavy workload and kind of acknowledged that and realized I'd probably do better if I extended by 1 year. And now I'm in only 4 courses a semester, which makes a huge difference. That's why I'm able to be the president of the Women in Engineering Club. I have a lot more time on my hands. So I definitely say like it can be pretty heavy and you gotta make sure you know when you're not doing okay. You gotta fix that in yourself and in your schoolwork. Like it's really important to realize like 1 more year of school to 40 years of working isn't that big of a deal, you know? So don't put too much pressure on yourself and try to remember what you're here for, and that's you.
I think a key point to bring up there as well is that the average degree length for an engineering degree is 5.6 years. So between 5 and 6 years is very normal. And if you're in co-op, you're guaranteed to be doing 5 years anyways. I did a similar thing with my course load. I've been taking 3 courses a term for the last 2.5 years. And it's meant that I can be way more involved in the extracurriculars that I enjoy. So
Thanks, Cameron, for adding that. And for any students who are joining us here today, if you have questions about co-op, we actually did a session specifically on co-op 2 weeks ago, and it's recorded on the UBC Engineering YouTube channel. So if you want to learn more about that and why that adds that year onto your degree, with all the great paid work experience you can get, please check out that video, and that will answer most of your questions. And if not, you can reach out to Franco and I if you have any other questions about co-op. The next question here is speaking about food options. So I think your slide there, Cameron, on the the cafe, that one came in right after that. So wondering, maybe we can start with Ryan, if you want to speak about maybe the food options at the Vancouver campus. I'm not sure if any of you have lived in residence or not, if there is any differences there you would like to share.
Yeah, so for me, like it's actually been like a topic to like think about because like I have like dietary restrictions, like I eat halal food. So I also live on residence, but like don't be like stressed about it because you see like Vancouver has a lot of different food options. And if you live on residence, so if you're in first year residence, you can get into a meal plan. So if you have a meal plan, that's like they also have a lot of different food options for like dietary restrictions or organic cuisines, things like that. And there's a bunch of other housings in first year that also don't have food plans, but there's a lot of different options is my like opinion on that. And I personally like to cook myself a bit more, but if you're someone like who's like really busy or like needs more time to go out, like you can eat outside. But I will warn you that it is Vancouver, the price is going to be a bit expensive. So just budget properly beforehand or just like prepare for like cooking a lot more than you would think. That's kind of the truth of it, I would say, yeah.
Maybe I'll pass it over to either Matthew or Chantel to talk about food options at the Okanagan campus in the Kelowna area.
Oh, you got it. Oh, I'll go for it. Yeah, so I guess I was in residence my first year, so that there's the options. You can get the suites with like the multi rooms with the kitchens and kind of take care of it yourself if you want, or you can do the ones with the meal plan, and which is kind of an all access to the dining hall thing. And then now there's kind of several different spots, Tim Hortons, some chain restaurants, as well as ones run by the food services on campus there for options. But I find at least in Kelowna, they kind of are varying year to year. And I don't know exactly what's there right now, just in terms of menus and kind of looking to improve it every year.
And the thing I would add just for the Vancouver campus, so we also have like a lot of low cost options. Like it's not all expensive. Like for example, the eatery like in the like ESC, I like shout that out. Like they have really cheap, like even like snacks and like sandwiches. I really like them. And besides that, we also have Agora Cafe and Sprouts Cafe. You'll learn about them more later, but they're very cheap food and they also have free food and just community dinners, which is also a great way to meet other people. But yeah.
No, that's perfect. And I heard you guys mention like the cost, and I see there's a question here about the cost. And the good thing is on the u.ubc.ca website, there's actually a first year cost calculator. So Franco, if you don't mind throwing that link into the chat, I know I'm adding some new ones here right now, but if you're interested in understanding a little bit more of the cost, this first year cost calculator is super helpful to sort of bring that together. That may vary year to year depending on like what the students here were saying, if you're cooking more in your apartment or your residence space, or if you have a meal plan, but that will give you a good estimate of what your first year may cost. So we're getting to the end of the presentation today. So I have one more question to ask each of our panelists here. And the last question is, what is your top tip for incoming students for making friends and finding your community at university? So I'm going to start with Cameron for this one.
Yeah, I guess my top tip is before you get here, kind of really think about what you enjoy, what you like doing, and then on Imagine Day and in those first couple weeks, go and find the group of people that enjoys the same thing as you, whether that's a design team or a club or the EUS or the EngSoc at UBCO. There's so many different places that you can fit in. So don't worry too much about making friends in classes and stuff like that because you'll find friends in places that you enjoy being.
Maybe over to you, Chantel.
I kind of have a similar one. Just sort of be you. Don't really try to conform to what you think people want you to be like, because that never works and you'll just be unhappy later on. So try to remember like what you're interested in, like Cameron said, and kind of pursue that. Don't give up. There's like opportunity for so much that there's like you got hope, keep it, you know? So I think it's really important to just make sure you're staying true because that's what'll get you the furthest.
Thanks, Chantel. Over to you, Ryan.
Yeah, so another thing I would just say, like, just from my own experience, like, don't be shy to make the first move. Like, if you ever feel like you want to become friends with someone, go talk to them. Like, don't think about it. There's nothing bad that could happen, really. Just if you ever feel like you want to go to some, like, sit next to someone in class, go sit there. Like, it's something like I feel like I should have realized earlier, like, because I had my first year online, didn't really think too much about it. But I would say just taking initiative is always really good. Like, if you feel like the other people you want to be friends with are not like they might be shy or like they're not like speaking up, but you can always take the first like advance for the first move. So yeah.
And over to you, Matthew.
Yeah, I feel like these three really hit the nail on the head. But the only thing I might add is just don't be afraid to try new things and go out and join in the first few weeks. Go out and see what all the clubs are about, and even design teams. Go out and attend just the general information meeting on several and see which kind of one speaks to you and that. But don't go in thinking you're going to go one way and not be open to it going a completely different route than you thought it would when you start.
That was all really great advice for how to find your community. We know it's different for everyone, but you guys all brought very different perspectives today, and we're so excited to learn about all the different clubs and organizations that you guys are representing this evening. So I just want to say a big thank you for being here today to share those experiences with the students who are with us and anyone who's going to be watching the recording later. We really appreciate your time and all the advice that you provided tonight. I'm going to ask Franco to come back on the screen as well. Oh, you already started sharing. That's beautiful. That's what I was going to ask you to do next. Thank you so much, Franco. Now we just wanted to take a minute to thank all of you who joined us here tonight to learn more about finding your community at either UBC Vancouver or UBC Okanagan. If you decide to come to engineering at either of these campuses. The slide here shows a lot of great resources, that u.ubc.ca website that I mentioned earlier. Lots of great information. That's where that first year cost calculator can be found. If you want to learn more just about engineering at UBC, there's a few other links after that. You can follow our engineering stories team, which has lots of great videos about like the day in the life of an engineer at either of our campuses. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself at the Okanagan campus or Franco at the Vancouver campus. We are happy to answer any questions that you have. I also wanted to just remind everyone about the upcoming events. That pre-biomedical information session on March 4th, the alumni events where we have engineering alumni coming virtually on March 12th to share about their transition from school to their current positions. And lastly, if you have any specific questions about engineering, Franco and I will be hosting a Ask Me Anything advising drop-in type sessions on March 19th. So please register for that, and you can come chat with us in very small groups to ask questions you might have about engineering or that admissions process. But that is all for us today. So thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you all here in September at either Vancouver or Okanagan campus. Thank you all.